What's going on, my fellow A-plusers? It is I, your host, Adam Perez, and we're back once again with a brand new video as we're going to begin our reviews for Titans Season 3, ladies and gentlemen. I've been a big fan of this particular show. We actually reviewed Seasons 1 and 2 over on our previous YouTube page, A-Plus Opinions, and as much as I enjoy this show, I definitely have found myself being critical of the show at times, really enjoying some of the character plots, storylines, and things like that, but it's usually the execution of this season that tends to be kind of up and down, the unbalanced of character storylines, especially when you have such a plethora of characters. So there is always a hesitancy when I go into a brand new season of Titans, despite how I certainly do enjoy the show, and it definitely hasn't changed when it goes into Season 3. I definitely have certainly had my concerns, but the trailers that we have certainly seen so far have really just, gained even more hypeness for myself going into this season and really seeing what they're going to be delivering upon. And to be honest with you, if episode 1 of this third season is any indication of what this entire season may turn out to be, I'm here for it, guys. I really enjoyed episode 1 in here, setting the tone, getting into some really dark and deep character developments here, whether that be between Dick Grayson, Bruce Wayne, Jason Todd, Barbara Gordon. I'm really loving just the main story arc that we're definitely going to be tackling in. And I gotta say, for first episode, I love the fact of the introduction to our Titans, getting the opportunity to see them working as a well-oiled machine to kind of take down some thugs, some villains in the beginning of this episode, but not giving us too much to where it kind of loses sight of the main story arc. Episode 1 really does a great job of at least introducing us again to Starfire, showcasing us a little bit about maybe what Gar is going to be struggling with in here, along with a couple other characters. So they are at least planting the groundwork for certainly where we're going to be getting, but they certainly didn't hit us with too much information or too much going on in episode 1. So I gotta say, man, a big fan of certainly what we wind up getting in here. But before we get into depth, always remember, guys, these are just simply our A-plus opinions. At the end of the day, though, I definitely want to go ahead and know yours. So let your thoughts be known in the live chat or the comment section box below, and we can continue to have this discussion about Titans in the comment section box after this particular video airs, ladies and gentlemen. So let's go ahead and jump into it. A couple things that really jumped out at me that I gotta say, for me, I love the fact that this season alone is really taking Titans, I guess you can say, in a different trajectory that I certainly wasn't expecting. Like, I can really feel just sort of the amount of liberties that the writers are kind of taking with this show in regards to how they're handling Barbara Gordon right now, making her commissioner of the the Gotham City Police Department, knowing that the Commissioner Gordon has in fact died. The idea of even going so far as to make sort of Batman a killer by the end of this episode, and how he wind up handling the Joker, getting to see that even Bruce is trying to maybe push Dick Grayson into becoming the concept of a new Batman. Whether or not that's something that they pull the trigger on by the season's end, who certainly knows, but the idea that they're taking really bold decisions and some really great risks, and the payoff happening in episode 1, really loved it, honestly. And it really does make me curious as to the direction in which it's going to go next season. Season 2 did have the benefit of, adapting a great storyline in the Judas Contract when it comes to Jericho, Ravager, Deathstroke, and things like that. But this feels very much more like an original story outside of like the death of the family storyline of the passing of Jason Todd. It definitely does feel like they're certainly taking their own liberties to certainly make it its own and really even push the envelope a little bit more. So for writing wise, episode 1, I'm really liking the flow so far. I'm really loving the flow. I thought the direction in here was great. Some of just the choice scene selections, even the lighting, really I thought amplified a ton of scenes in here, especially when you see Bruce Wayne just at his darkest, if you will. I was really a big fan of what they presented us to here in the first episode. So let's talk about this, because in the trailers alone, when it came to the Jason Todd storyline, this is kind of how I predicted it certainly would happen, that the beginning of this season would showcase at least the death of Jason Todd, and then right after that we would be dealing with the ramifications. I wasn't quite sure if there was in fact going to be a time jump or not, but I'm actually kind of glad that there isn't a time jump. I mean, we expect Tim Drake to be in here as another Robin. I wasn't sure if there was going to be like a death of Jason Todd, and then maybe like a time jump of a year to then see that Bruce Wayne has another Robin in his midst. Jason Todd certainly coming back as the Red Hood, if you will, but that doesn't necessarily seem to be the case, at least with just the first episode alone. Again, I've only watched the first episode. I haven't dabbled into episode 2, so I don't know if there's a time jump in there or not, but I'm glad that it didn't happen in this episode because of the fact that the ramifications of Jason Todd dying is having a huge impact on the personality of Bruce Wayne and how he's certainly handling it. You know, when it comes to Ian Glenn, especially in season 2, there were a lot of pushback on this guy certainly being Batman, you know, and when I've always looked at Ian Glenn sort of as a Bruce Wayne, and I think he does a great Bruce Wayne, it is hard for me at times to kind of picture him sort of in the bat suit itself. But I think this episode alone kind of showcases maybe a little bit of those sides that people might have had doubts about, that kind of maybe are emphasized a little bit more in this episode. Now, for me, when it comes to season 2 Bruce Wayne, I definitely looked at him as like an alternate universe sort of Adam West sort of Batman sort of mindset, right? Now, not somebody that's necessarily so dark, a little bit of a lightheartedness to him, but definitely will chew your ass out if you do something wrong, right? Like just seeing his relationship with Dick Grayson solidify that, the way that Dick kind of, you saw the definition of Bruce Wayne through the mind's eye of Dick Grayson in season 2. And now we're definitely getting the opportunity to see a completely different side of Bruce Wayne that they didn't really tackle too much in season 2. It almost feels like night and day, but this is truly Bruce Wayne dealing with his grief. And if there's anything that we know about Bruce Wayne, he does not handle grief very well whatsoever. I mean, the fact that Barbara Gordon brings up the idea that, look, Dick Grayson, you were replaced as Robin like the first week that you were certainly gone, and despite the death of Jason Todd, to see the coldness of this man, how he handles his emotions, and the idea of keep your head down, keep pushing forward, don't really care about this person too much, don't get yourself too attached, it might take you off the path of what you're trying to achieve, and justice sort of thing, right? Very cold-hearted sort of mentality, and that's just the way that Bruce Wayne certainly is when it comes to how he handles himself and how he handles grief. He channels this pain through other things, and it could definitely come across as very cold to a lot of people in here. And so just to even see him be so dismissive of somebody like Jason Todd and be so quick to kind of be ready to go ahead and find other Robins, pretty despicable and pretty, you know, just heartbreaking to kind of see the mindset in which this man is certainly in Bruce Wayne. But I love the fact that they highlight this moment because, again, and this is something that me and Stuart mentioned or talked about in our one of our chats over on Facebook Messenger yesterday. It's the idea that this is the Bruce Wayne that we can see as to why Dick Grayson sort of had that mindset towards Batman in the very first season, right? Why he was so scared and trying to get away from that lifestyle because of the fact that Bruce Wayne tends to weaponize his Robins, the fact that he's so quick to dismiss them and then just bring somebody else into the fight, and the idea that this guy has gotten sort of so old and he's been doing this for such a long time that maybe we do have a Batman that can no longer get the job done by himself and is so incredibly dependent on the idea of having somebody like a Robin next to him. You know, maybe maybe these people haven't been able to fill the fantastic shoes that Dick Grayson wind up leaving when he departed sort of as Robin, and now we see a very sort of lonely old Batman who's maybe still trying to hold on to his prime by making sure that he's got a Robin by his side sort of at all times. And unfortunately for these Robins, he's just sort of cycling through them, not really even caring for them so much, right? Like, you clearly get to see the detachment that Bruce Wayne certainly has. I mean, even the fact that Dick Grayson, who's just as good of a detective from everything that he's learned from Batman himself, the fact that Batman couldn't even tell that Jason Todd was up to something or getting into something that he certainly shouldn't have, when he says, "Oh, I had absolutely no idea." I love the fact that you get somebody to chew Bruce Wayne's ass ass out like Dick Grayson to put him on the spot. You don't see it because you don't care, because they're just pawns to you in this overall sort of game of war that you're playing sort of with the Joker. So I really love seeing Ian Glenn being able to portray just a broken and older Bruce Wayne, because again, like I said, it's hard for me to imagine him still at this point in time in his life as Batman. But it makes sense that he probably shouldn't even be Batman at this age, because he is relying on so many other things in his life to maybe pull, but to kind of push him through some of these particular battles that he certainly has been in. So I love just the really awkward and difficult discussion and conversation that we have between Barbara and Dick and Bruce Wayne. And just seeing how even Barbara's able to go ahead and recognize some of the faults when it comes to Bruce Wayne. So again, I think when it comes to Ian Glenn, great Bruce Wayne. I loved how he was able to certainly tap into this emotional side, and it definitely shows us a different side of Batman that I don't think that we've seen, and especially to push him to that edge of actually killing the Joker at the very end of the episode, I thought was pretty brilliant. I thought was pretty bold, and I'm kind of curious if there are going to be some people out there that are certainly mad. Now, I don't know if there's something that's affecting Bruce Wayne and having this mentality, right? Because Dick Grayson did say that something was kind of off with Bruce, so I don't know if this is like some sort of chemical bothering him, or if this is really just how Bruce Wayne is certainly handling his grief. But again, cold-blooded as they come, and kudos to Ian Glenn for being able to certainly portray that and really leave us on a cliffhanger in episode 1 here that makes you wonder what the future of Batman's going to be, what the future of Dick Grayson as a possible Nightwing could certainly be. Also, I really wouldn't mind the idea that if Ian Glenn certainly retired, that if this Titans series, because of the fact that it feels so disconnected a little bit for me from the sort of say classic New Teen Titans comic book series back from the 80s and things like that, it almost feels more Young Justice-y, if anything. I really wouldn't mind the idea if they wanted to kind of take some liberties with this show and really kind of start turning it into like an Elseworld sort of thing. Like, can you imagine Brenton Thwaites as Batman come season 4, and we've got Tim Drake as Robin sort of headlining the Titans team? Who certainly knows, right? So I am curious to see what episode 1, what the ramifications are going to be as the season certainly progresses. And I also love the fact here that we wind up having a little bit of a mystery as to what Jason Todd was certainly up to. The fact that we see him having even flashbacks from season 2, his near-death experience, where we saw he was not handling well at all. The breakup between him and Rose, a lot of distrust, no connection to his Titans and things like that, really pushing him sort of to the edge, if you will. I am curious what he was working on. The fact that Dick Grayson has a mystery for himself to certainly try and solve, it does make me wonder if he's trying to reverse engineer Scarecrow's sort of fear serum. I mean, the only reason why I bring that up is, one, we definitely know that Scarecrow will be playing a role in this season. The fact that he clearly seems, he makes an emphasis to Bruce Wayne that he's not scared, that he's not afraid of anything sort of thing before he winds up inhaling it. So I am wondering if behind the scenes Jason Todd was working on maybe trying to reverse engineer Scarecrow's fear serum, so now it maybe allows him to not necessarily fear anything when he certainly goes into battle. But unfortunately, we do see that ends up being the demise of the Joker for him in here also. So I really appreciated how they handled his death. They really go to showcase just how important his death is, whether that means the push that somebody like a Tim Drake needs to go on to become a Robin, which we get to see I can't remember his last name in here, who plays Tim Drake. Really great first appearance in here. So I definitely want to see how his storyline falls into all this. But it definitely, I really do love how they wind up at least handling the death of Jason Todd, and I'm eager to certainly see his appearance as Red Hood as the season progresses. If anything, great Easter eggs in here in regards to the potential next Robin. We wind up seeing the names of Carrie Kelly, who's from the Dark Knight Rises storyline by Frank Miller if I'm not mistaken. I believe she was a Robin also. Stephanie Brown is even in here. I believe she portrayed a Robin at some point in time, or at least spoiler. And I think she goes on. Was she a Huntress at some point in time too? I can't remember. I feel like Stephanie Brown's name is attached to a bunch of different aliases. Duke Thomas is referred in here. Daxton Chill as well, but we don't see Tim Drake on that list as of yet. So maybe somebody that he hasn't necessarily been looking out for. But great Easter eggs, at least when it comes to the upcoming, or I should say next Robin potential in here. A quick shout out also to Savannah Welch that wind up playing Barbara Gordon. Really love what she wind up bringing to the table, and I really love the dynamic of just the interpersonal relationships that we have between her, Dick Grayson, along with Bruce Wayne, and just that back and forth again, that awkward sort of conversation of me and your father as commissioner were a lot closer and communicated a lot better, sort of thing. Just kind of giving Barbara Gordon some digs here and there, sort of thing, as they clearly are on two completely different mindsets and mentalities in here. So great stuff when it comes to just the main storyline. Was absolutely loving it. Now, when it comes to the Titans itself, a couple things that definitely jump out at me when it comes to Starfire, who I love the fact that she has almost kind of grown into the spokesperson for the Titans. She definitely feels like she's bumped up to second in command, the one doing the interviews, right? The PR person that makes everybody certainly appreciate the Titans a little bit more than it certainly would be if you had, say, like a Nightwing kind of doing all the interviews and things like that. So I love the fact that she feels like she's kind of grown into a natural leader and continues to have a great way with the kids. I mean, we saw that in season 1 when she was helping Gar and Rachel and things like that through all the difficulties that they've been going through. So this was just an enhancement of her character, and I really appreciated that. And I also really appreciated her honesty, the idea of her being mad at Jason for not pushing himself to sort of learn from his mistakes and even improve, right? And I think the valuable lesson that the Titans certainly get from that, based off of what Starfire is saying. I mean, we see it perfectly in Garin here, who now wants to kind of push himself, right? Like, how many times are you just going to be a tiger? How many times are you just going to be a snake? I love the fact that we got to actually see Gar using some of his hand-to-hand combat stuff. Absolutely incredible. I'm so glad to see that he's actually going out there and fighting, maybe not necessarily just relying on his powers, but actually doing a little bit more and being a formidable part of the Titans in here. So really cool to kind of see all the teamwork involved and things like that. Him and Superboy working together. I do think that that's a relationship and friendship and bond that I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye out on as we go forward. When it comes to Starfire, a potential love interest from Homeboy from season 2 looks like he's going to be popping up. I am curious about the idea of these visions that she's having. I am wondering if these visions are in fact of Jason Todd or if they're of somebody else, because upon having these visions, she found herself back in sort of another location. This is like the second time that she just randomly has popped into another location, right? We saw her over in Russia in season 1. She has no idea how she wind up sort of getting there, and she doesn't seem to have any idea how she got to, I'm assuming where she went to was either Gotham or someplace random in San Francisco. So I'm pretty sure she probably still has her memories. I don't think this is a lapse of amnesia or anything like that, but it definitely seems like a part of Starfire's abilities are maybe new powers being awakened, because I don't recall her having visions like that, well, except when she was actually getting her memories back. So I am kind of curious as to where these visions are certainly going to lead Starfire. Maybe it's something from her own life, or maybe it's a connection to Jason Todd. So we'll definitely have to see, but she looks great. Absolutely. Anna Diop, who plays Starfire, looks absolutely great in here. Love the costumes. The Nightwing costume looks great, but man, that Starfire costume just truly pops now. So I'm so glad that they wind up giving her a little bit of a character growth and just a brand new costume here this season. But yeah, when it comes to the Gar stuff, a little bit of an odd scene, seeing him kind of talking to himself, in his room. Like, I wonder, like, does he have a psychic connection with Rachel? Like, is he responding based off of like her actually speaking and answering back? Or is this just Homeboy just talking to himself, wishing that Rachel was certainly there for him? I would be interested to see that, but he at least gives us a little bit of a tidbit as to where she's at, why she wasn't in this season, because she's trying to certainly help bring back smack down a Troy on Themyscira. So I'm hoping we get ourselves a scene or a shot in Themyscira to see a brand new location in Titans here. But overall, though, I've been really pleased with how episode 1 certainly handled not only the Batman and Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon storyline, but at least gave us a little bit of a tease of our Titans to kind of see how they're growing, and they're just certainly developing as a team. So I'm looking forward to it. I think if they can keep this really great balance for the show for the remainder of the season, we might be onto something here. But again, it's going to be about execution when it comes to just a plethora of different characters that we're going to be introduced to in here, revisiting brand new villains and things like that, etc., etc. So episode 1, though, knocked it out of the park, guys. I was a really big fan of it. But listen, at the end of the day, I want to know your thoughts, and if there's anything in particular that I missed, whether that be character moments, storyline details, you feel free to go ahead and continue this conversation in our comment section box below after this video airs, and we'll definitely go ahead and talk to you guys about it later. But other than that, guys, we'll certainly be back with episodes 2 and 3 this weekend, so certainly look out for them. But in the meantime, do me a big favor, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and as always, keep it A+. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.